Hello everyone. Today we'll be doing a new project that we have. It's going to be a DHCP and DNS troubleshooting project. Let me go ahead and give you guys just a rundown. This is the current network configuration that we'll be troubleshooting. So we have a server, and this is going to have DHCP and DNS. We have a layer 3 multi-layer switch. This is connected to end user devices. We have two computers, PC 3 and 4, and then we have a access layer 3 switch and also a printer. And this is all in a VLAN of 10 with an IP subnet of 192.168.10.0/24. Now for our objectives, we're going to make sure all devices receive proper IP addresses using DHCP. So we ping the following domain names. So we have the PC3 domain name, the layer 3 switch, PC4, and then the printer. And this is the success criteria that we'll be trying to accomplish. So to get started, what we're going to do is go on to one of the computers, in this case PC3, and now let's just see if we can get an IP address. So immediately we see that we're getting a 254 IP address. So this is an API-IPA, also known as an automatic private IP, and this happens whenever a device is unable to obtain an IP address from the DHCP server. Now what we can try doing is re-requesting for an IP address through DHCP. So what we'll need to do is type in ipconfig/release so that we can clear the IP. You can see here the IP address is showing zeros, and as well as the other IP information, including the subnet, default gateway, and the DNS. So let's go ahead and type in ipconfig/renew. And this is going to send a DHCP request. So let's see if we get anything, and it's a DHCP request failed. Now just based off our network setup that we have here, we see that all devices like PC3 should try to reach multi-layer switch 2 here, and then in theory go to server 1 for an IP address. So now we have to troubleshoot that. Now just to make sure, let's go on PC4 and verify to see if we can get an IP address, but in this case we're seeing the API-IPA address as well. So let's try retrieving a new IP address. So let's go ahead and release it and then renew it, and we should see the DHCP request fail, and there it is. So now let's go on to the layer 3 switch 2 and just verify everything's configured correctly. So let's just do a show run. So we have IP routing. That's fine. Now let's start just going down. And we're seeing Fast Ethernet 01 going over to Fast Ethernet 04. These are all configured for switch port access to VLANs, but we have to notice that F02 is configured for VLAN 20 when it should be 10. So that's one thing that we'll have to fix and configure correctly. So now, next we have the interface F05 with an IP address of 192.168.100.1. So this is correct. Now we just need to verify that the interface that it's actually connected to is correct. So see, it's F05, but I like to reconnect and make sure that it is set to F05 myself. So if we keep going down, we see all the other F0 interfaces. So here, interface VLAN 10, we have the IP address 192.168.10.1. The subnet is correct with a /24 CRDR notation. And just based off this label, this is correct. So what we can do here is create another label 192.168.10.1. Alright, and since we don't have any IP address for these devices, we'll just put an X for the last octet. Alright, so that's pretty good. So just to get started, let's go ahead and make the F02 port set to VLAN 10 instead of VLAN 20. So interface F02 switch port access VLAN 10. Okay. Now let's show run. And we see interface F01 through 4 are all VLAN 10. Now let's just make sure all of these connections are actually F01, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll make sure this is 1, this one, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's just create labels just so that we know it's set correctly. So the PCs and the printers, they're only going to have one fast Ethernet port, so we don't have to worry about what exactly it's connected to. Now for the switch, let's just make sure what it's set to since it has multiple. So this is F01. Now make sure the label's there. Then we can configure this later. So now we pretty much made sure that this switch was correctly configured. So now let's go ahead and check the server. Let's go into services. Let's go into DHCP. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the poles that we have set up. So we have the LAN, and then this is the default. So let's go on the LAN and see that DHCP service is off. So let's go ahead and turn that on. Now for the default gateway, we have 192.168.100.1. This is fine. So let's just make sure that the interface is F05 we see. So let's create that label for it. Alright, so that default gateway is good. DNS server is going to be this IP address of the server. Start IP address 192.168.10.0. So for the 0, we want to actually start it at 2 because 0 is the network address and .1 is the VLAN 10 SVI interface. So let's go ahead and make sure the subnet is correct. 255.255.255.0. Now let's save. Let's go ahead and exit. And let's see if we can get an IP address. So ipconfig release, and ipconfig renew. Now let's see if we can get an IP through DHCP. So it's still failing. Oh, so I forgot to add one more thing. So if we actually go back to show run, we go down to VLAN 10. We should have IP helper, and the IP address would be 192.168.100.2. So anytime a device tries to get DHCP and reaches VLAN 10, it'll go to the helper address for DHCP. So what we're gonna do is go back into config, interface VLAN 10, IP helper. Then we're gonna put the IP address of the server. I'm gonna exit, and let's go ahead and go back to PC3. and let's just try ipconfig renew. And boom. So there we have the IP address set, 192.168.10.2. Subnet looks good. Default gateway looks good. Server as well. So let's just go ahead and change the label to .2. Now let's go to PC4 and let's just verify that the IP address has been set. ipconfig renew. We see it's already received the IP address from DHCP. So let's go ahead and change the label for this one. Now let's go ahead and check printer. Fast Ethernet 0 is showing DHCP, and the IP is 192.168.10.0.4. Let's go change that label to the multi-layer switch 3. Now what we have to do is show IP interface brief. Now F01 is showing 192.168.10.5 and the IP is from DHCP. So let's go ahead and change that. We don't have to do anything on this device. Now let's see if we can ping using DNS. So let's see if we can ping PC4. Alright, so it looks like we're able to ping PC4. So let's just go ahead and verify on this DNS server. We see PC4 has an IP address of 192.168.10.3. Alright, now let's try printer. So ping printer. Okay, let's try printer 1. Okay, so the actual device and the label are actually different, so let's make sure they match. So this one's going to be printer 1, as shown in the display name. So let's actually label this printer 1. Then let's name the layer 3 switch statement L3S1. Then let's change the name on the device. Now let's go to this switch. Let's name it L3S0. Let's just name the server as well. DNS DHCP Server. Alright, so now looking here in our DNS record, some of these were inputted incorrectly into the DNS record list. So in this case, it looks like they misspelled switch. So we want to make sure that the name and the IP address are inputted correctly. So let's update the name for this one to L3S1. Now let's just make sure the IP address is the .5 that we set it to and click save. Now printer. So it looks like they misspelled printer here. So we'll change this to printer 1. And this is the IP address of .4. Okay, so let's try ping to all these devices now. So ping L3S1, and we are able to ping, and the IP address is listed correctly for that device. Let's do ping PC4, and that looks good. And the IP address is .3. Now ping printer 1. So it's pinging and the IP address is also correct. Now let's go into PC4 and see if we can ping PC3. Ping PC3. Reachable. And it's timing out. So let's get out of here. Let's see if we can just ping the IP address of PC3. So ping 192.168.10.2, and it is pinging. So we can ping with the IP address, just not using the host name. And that would be a result of the DNS either failing or just not working. So let's go ahead and look back at our DNS records, and let's look at PC3. And let's check over. So the PC name is correct. The type is a record, so that's good. The IP address is 192.68 instead of .168. So let's go ahead and fix and save that. Now let's go back to PC4 and see if we can ping PC3 using the host name. So now it's pinging correctly. Now let's go back to our objectives. So let's check over. So our success criteria was to be able to have all devices ping each other using domain names, which we verified. So this concludes the DHCP and DNS troubleshooting project.